So hello guys, welcome back to the another session. Today I'm going to talk about how to fetch a single value because I have been gone through you can say UiPath apps, and I can see a lot of questions coming into community like how to get the single value, like in case if we have to display single records, in case you can say like I'm selecting a country and I want to display like which state I belong to, or maybe you can say I'm displaying my name and I want to display some columns value, a single value in somewhere into apps, how we can do that. So that is a kind of tricky part. If you remember legacy apps had a kind of lookup function. So in the lookup functions, how you can do, you can just go and write a expression like you can give the entity name, and then what you can do, you can write a where conditions, right? And then in the where condition you can just give a filter, and then you can return a value, right? So UiPath VB apps is a little bit different to do that. Like let's see how we can do. Let's progress. So I'm just creating an app which has something called name. It's called fetch single value. So before that, let me show you. I have a questions, and this questions has certain, you can say label, which is a question, and then something you can say info message, which is just for information message. And then I have order number. So I want to display question number 1, 2, 3, 4. So how we can do that? That's a kind of a tricky part, right? So because we cannot write expressions like a lookup function here. So see, there are two ways to do that, right? So what you can do, you can create an app variables, and then you can assign the value into your app variables. And then what you can do, you can get the value from the app variable. So there are two types. One, what you can do, you can create an entity type variables, and then another is something called, you can create a list source variable, right? So let me go before I would like to add my entity here. So I will go ahead here. Let me select country, and then I will select questions, right? So I selected question. So now I have country and questions into my you can say apps. So to do that, what we have to do, what we need to do, we need to create a, let's see, first method we want to see. So what we can do, we can go to app variables, and then in app variable, what I can say, var entity, and then I can select, you can say, I can say like I want to display questions, right? Questions. And then what you can do in the type, I can select the particular question's name. So here the question name. So I selected the questions, and then you can see app variable, which I created entity type. And then one more variable type I would like to create. Let's go and create a variable. I will give var ls, that is called list source, and I can say questions. And then I would say here, go and I say list source, and then what is the type of list source? I can give the entity name, that is called something called questions, right? So I have created list source of questions, right? What entity, right? So what is the difference between entity and list source? Entity always hold a single records. So remember, entity always hold a single records, and list source app variables hold n number of more than one. I mean that it is kind of a list record. So if you have to play with only single value, so what you can do, you can create an entity type. But if you have more than one value and you want to play with more than one value, then you need to create list source. So in this case, what you can do, directly apply the filter at the server side. I mean, what you can do, you can pass the filter directly at the server side and get the single records. So you do not need to apply any client side filter. But if you are using a list source, so in list source, what you can do, you can either apply the filter at the server side and get the list of records. I mean, I can say if you have a state like India, then what you can do, you can apply a filter at the server side and get list of state for the India. And then what you can do, you can apply client side filter to get a single value at the client side. So in this one, you do not need any client side filtration. But for the list source, you need a client side filtration because you have more than one records, right? So now let's go and see how it works. So to do that, what you have to do, you have to go and either set the value at the runtime or any event. So what I'm going to try to do here on the main page, I'm just trying to write events, and then event, I will do set value. And then in the set value, what you need to do, you just need to do alt, then you will get list of variables. So what I'm going to do, I'm just saying var underscore entity questions. Okay. And then the easiest way, what you can do, you can go to query builder, and then you can select a questions here. Let's say questions. And then what I have a questions order number. So you can filter based on the order number. So what I can do, go to condition and I can say order number, and then I can select equal to questions number 1, because this is a string in the backend. So I'm just passing under double quote. In additional setting, you can just always say one record, page limit one, always do once. Either you can do anything. So now what you do, if you save it, you will get an error. Why are we getting an error? Because var entity questions is a type of entity, and var entity type of questions doesn't hold more than one record. So in this case, page will not work, right? So what you need to do, you need to do page 1, right? So once you do page 1 of questions and then write following filters and sorting, this will work, because page 1 will always record a single value based on your filter, right? And this entity type always hold a single record. So that's the reason now it is matching. So source and destinations are matching, right? So now what you need to do now here, let's go and say now you have an input as a kind of text field, right? So now I want to display the questions here. So let's go and do here. And then what you need to do, go to general. And then what, if you want to display questions, so you don't need to go to label, right? So in label, just cancel it. And then what you do, var entity questions dot, this will return all the property because it's a single value, right? So now it is returning me the var entity questions, and then you have ID, info message, labels, order numbers, and everything. So this is returning me everything. So what I can do, I can select label, and that's it. So it will return me a single value based on the filter. So this will return me labels here. Similarly, I want to display info message, hint text, I can say, based on this filter, same thing. So I can say var entity questions dot info message, right? Now just go and run this. So now once I will run, it should run, and then it should display the questions and information message, which is basically a hint text. So now let it run. And then you can see here. Then what are the passport seva kendra timings and lunch time? And this is kind of hint returning here. So basically, if you go to questions, question number 1, it is saying what are the passport seva kendra lunch times, and then this is the information message, right? So based on that, you can return a single value. But now at the runtime, if you have 4 fields, you want to display this one in a single field, this one into another field, this one into another field, and this is a separate field. So this will get tricky because in this case, entity type will not work. Why it will not work? Because entity type app variables always hold a single records. So if you want to create and returns into entity type, then what you will have to do, you will have to create 4 variables. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this will becomes a clumsy. This will becomes a kind of too lengthy for the applications, right? And to manage it. So for that one, what you need to do, you need to use list source app variable, because list source app variables returns list of records, correct? So now let's go here and set the list source app variable. So for this one, what you need to do, you need to do in set value, and then in set value, what I can do, I go here and where list source question, save it, and then here you go and do query builder, right? And then in query builder, what you can say, questions, right? And then save it. Now you see here, I don't have any errors, because earlier, if you remember, we had an error after saving the query builder, because this returns only single record. So fetch one will work, because fetch one always work with the entity type. It returns one record, but fetch returns more than one, and then you can work with list source. So this list source is mapped with fetch expression. Okay, now we have to display the value from the list source. So we'll see how we can do that, right? Let's go and we will see here, and then I will say a divider, put a divider here, so we can distinguish between single and all. So maybe let's put 2, and I will change the colors, maybe red color or something, okay? Let's add 4 field here. So now what you can do, I will go to list text box 1, and I can say this, and then I can just copy paste. So now I have four field, which is why I am taking, because now in my questions I have 4 field. So to do this, how can we get the value from this 4 entity list source, right? So what you can do, go to general, and then in the label, what you need to apply, you need to do where list source questions dot. Now you can see here, you don't have a return property for list source, because earlier, if you remember, for entity, it was returning a value from your app variables. But if a list source, you don't have. So what you need to do, first you need to get the data, right? All the data. So what you have to do, you have to apply list source questions dot data, right? And you can say dot, what you need to do, you need to apply a filter, where, right? And then you need to apply a filter, and then where, and then you need to write a kind of function. It is just a kind of lambda expressions, right? And then is, and then you can say is dot what you want to, because see there now. So now what I'm trying to do, I'm just applying list source dot data. So these get all the data from list source, which returns here on the client side filter, right? And then on clients, after client side filtration, what I'm trying to do, dot where, and then I'm just writing a lambda functions where defining an object, and then I'm saying is this object, complete object dot, I can say order number, right? And then in order number, I can pass, say 1, right? Dot, I can say order number, sorry, I can say order number dot, I can pass equals, right? You can pass anything. You can write a conditions equals, and then I am just passing equals, and then these, and then close the bracket, which is coming from the function, and then you can return the property here. So what I'm doing, you can say first, I'm just returning the first value, and then you can say what exactly you want to return. So I can say label, right? So now you see this is what we are trying to do. We have a list source variable, and then in list source variable, we are saying this is data, means this data is coming from the client side, server side filtration. And then in the server side filter result, what we are trying to do, we are trying to do where condition, and then in where condition, this will loop on this object, and then it will say till the matching record, is dot, I mean this object dot order number. So we are just matching order number equals to 1. And then we'll return the first result. You can say last result also, whatever, if you have more matching. And then it returns the property, what property you want to return, right? So this will return question number 1. Similarly, I want to return the, you can say, hint text. So what you can do, you can go here and then you change the label to .info message. Okay, that's it. So now I can go similarly, simply here, and then I can place it, and then I can change the course, just change this one, order number, which is the filter value. And then I can say here filter value and then return property .info message. Similarly, come down here and then just go, and then this is filter number, order number 3, right? And then here in the hint text, I can say order number 3, and the return property should be info message, correct? Similarly, in the question number 4, I can go and just place this. And then what I can say, return, remove this order number filter 4, and then in the hint text, I can say four. Okay, so now let's go and run this. So once I will run this, it should return me the result. So now let me run. Okay, so basically what happened, it is just doing a kind of set value. So that's the reason it took some time. So now you can see this is for the single value, and this one is coming from the list source. So let's see, I'm getting the first record, and this is the info message. This is the second record. This is the third record, and this is the fourth record, right? So this is how you can get the value from a single value from the columns, and you can return and you can filter it out, right? So basically in this demo, what we learned the entity question, entity type, list source, difference between list source and entity. Then we learned how to fetch and what is the difference between fetch and fetch one, and why we should use, where we should use fetch and fetch one, and then how to filter the value, how to get the single record value from, you can say, entity type directly, and then how to get the record from list source for a single value, and then how to apply the filters and everything. If you have any questions, please do comment, please do like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.